So this is not only potentially good news, I think it maybe answers some questions that a lot of us had in regards to what Microsoft actually had planned for the future of this year. We now know that they have some pretty interesting things. I know a lot of people were super interested in kind of understanding and wanting to know what their idea was for like the anniversary and bringing back the entire idea of backwards compatibility and stuff like that. So this is going to be a video that you're going to want to pay attention to, especially if you have, you know, some thoughts and opinions on backwards compatibility and maybe some questions too. So this should be a video that's going to really kind of intrigue you. And like I said, it's actually good news for a time. And, you know, we actually get some interesting news. And, you know, what's it going to mean? We don't have the full scope of what this means, but I think it does probably bode well for backwards compatibility and what they're going to be doing in the future. So that's going to be something that I think is going to, you know, get people incredibly amped up. You know, I know for me personally, this is something that I've been excited for and hoping for. One of the things that I thought could have saved or helped Xbox even more this generation was leaning into the idea of backwards compatibility. I thought, hey, if they do that, you know, anything can happen. So, you know, we'll see. But this is, on the surface, good news. As delisted Xbox 360 games briefly reappear on the Xbox Store, Microsoft prepares backwards compatibility revival. Several previously removed titles appeared and vanished within hours on Xbox. So that's interesting. Before being pulled again, according to a data mining account which monitors Microsoft's gaming backend for changes. This follows Xbox Vice President Jason Ronald's commitment at GDC this past year to revive the backwards compatibility program as part of Xbox's 25th anniversary later this year, saying this happened again, this time with Aegis Wing and Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time. What's happening? The titles spotted included Aegis Wing, Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time, and Mars Warlogs, all of which have been removed from the store previously. The Prince of Persia title resurfaced with its original release date, along with an apparent placeholder price of $100. And the 2003 shooter Armed and Dangerous also reappeared and vanished shortly before the latest batch. Mars Warlogs was delisted around the same time. One or two accidental relists might mean nothing, but the pattern across 4 titles in quick succession has undeniably caught attention. The better, account run by the developer behind the browser plugin of the same name first flagged Armed and Dangerous as a possible mistake before noting that subsequent appearances looked somewhat intentional. So, you know, that's super interesting to say the least, as these games have been kind of, you know, put on the kibosh previously. So at GDC in March, Ronald told attendees that Game Preservation Team would be rolling out new ways to play some of its most iconic games from our past as part of the 25th anniversary of Xbox Celebration. Microsoft discontinued its backwards compatibility program back in 2021, citing licensing issues and technical limitations that prevented further titles from being added to the catalog. The program originally launched in 2015 and brought hundreds of original Xbox 360 titles and some original Xbox titles to Xbox One and Xbox Series X and S later. At its peak, the catalog included over 600 titles spanning 2 console generations. Now, since the hiatus, fan demand for a return has remained high, while the community-run Xbox Preservation website tracking which original Xbox titles players want most to see to come back. Top requested games on the site include Jet Set Radio, Future, Sonic Heroes, and Simpsons Hit and Run. All this raises many questions about how backwards compatibility will work on Project Helix, Microsoft's next-gen console powered by a custom AMD SoC. Microsoft has confirmed that Helix will play both Xbox console and PC games, and Ronald described the machine as delivering an order of magnitude leap in ray tracing performance at the GDC presentation. Speculation has centered on the possibility that Microsoft's preservation team is working to bring an Xbox 360 emulator to Windows PCs, which would keep older titles accessible on both Helix and standard Windows 11 machines, but Microsoft hasn't confirmed that. There's a lot of other things to kind of talk about in this as well, like what's going to happen with like the physical titles. Like a lot of the games, I own hundreds of the physical games, myself, and so that's going to be kind of interesting to see how that plays out and how they kind of work with some of this stuff. But again, like I said, I think it really kind of comes down to what gamers want to see, and what gamers want in terms of their ability to kind of have something that nobody else has. And for me, like I said, a lot of it really kind of depends on, can I plug and play my games into into the new hardware. Like, that's the thing that I think people kind of want to know for themselves is, hey, do I have something that can actually be plugged in? Can I pop my disc in? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't want to have to buy the games over again. And not only that, but it's like, like, I have them physically. Why would I need to get them digitally as well? Like, that never really made sense to me. That whole kind of thought process realistically never made sense to me. And so that's why I hope that they continue on with some kind of physical availability there. So that's going to be something that I think Microsoft definitely has to kind of work out and kind of get into. And again, we'll have to wait and see long term what this is, but it would be nice to get more backwards compatibility games. Now, as I've mentioned this numerous times before, and people who might not know and might not understand how this stuff works, like the backwards compatibility program, like I mentioned earlier, that had to stop due to licenses and stuff like that. Microsoft, right, they can offer backwards compatibility like emulated games, like it's technically emulation the way that they handled the backwards compatibility program, but at the same point in time, you cannot sell games in your store that are emulated, even the way that they were doing it without touching code, because it just that kind of goes against the laws and things like that. And even though they aren't actually touching code, it still technically would be messing with somebody else's product. So that's why they had to stop it, which means it is interesting to see how the backwards compatibility stuff is going to work in the future. Is it going to be something that they're able to offer? Is it going to be something that they're able to kind of have people kind of work out, or is it just going to be like a handful of stuff that they've already had and managed to get more licenses for? Like, I think that's going to be sort of the big questions going forward. And for their sake, I hope that they get it right. I do feel like they should have doubled down on the stuff that people wanted. Like, everybody wanted backwards compatibility. Everybody wanted that stuff, to make a comeback. Nobody said, hey, cancel backwards compatibility programs. We don't want it. Like, everybody wanted more backwards compatibility. So the fact that, this stuff is happening right now is a little bit mind-blowing, and I still think that, it's a smart move to continue to offer that stuff, but I think it's also would be smart to, give people a reason to continue to own the platform, to continue to kind of collect games and stuff like that, even on stuff maybe that they aren't going to be able to make money on, you know what I'm saying? Because they can offer emulation on, they could do that for every game, free emulation, right? They just wouldn't be able to sell those games in their store, which I think is probably the big hang-up in terms of, what they're doing. But sometimes you just do things for the goodwill of people, in my opinion. So, I think that could be something that they maybe are considering. Maybe it's something that Microsoft can get, going in a good way or whatever. But we'll see. We'll see. That's kind of nice to see that things are, kind of working on, what fans are asking for. And to their credit, Microsoft is seemingly working on more and more things that, fans have asked for. And is that going to mean good things overall for Xbox in the future? Like, I don't really know. But I wouldn't count it out. It is nice to see them continue to kind of improve things, like announce new updates, new features, and all these types of things that fans are indeed sort of hungry for in terms of what they want and what they want to see from like Microsoft in the future. Now, more backwards compatibility stuff, always welcome, no matter how they do it. Obviously, I mean, whatever they do, next gen is going to have like backwards compatibility things, but is it going to be able to play discs? I think that's a big question that they're going to have to answer, and I hope that the answer is, yeah, we have a disk drive, even if it's something you have to buy separately. I think it's important for people like me who have, like, because even though, like, people like me who have thousands of games, right? 360, original Xbox, Xbox One, Series X, but if you can't play my discs physically, then what does it matter if I stick with Xbox or not at that point? Because they're not helping me stick with them long term anyway. Let me know how you guys feel. Rack 'em up. Crap Gamer out.